So, how did I get used to another clothing style? Um, okay, this feels like a bit of a weird question, and I don't exactly know why I'm making a video on this. Mainly just to teach my friend that wearing a sweatshirt and shorts is okay. So I guess I'm going to go through my own personal experience on how to do it. Oh wait, where do I start? Well, I didn't completely escape doing it in the summer of 2021. Specifically, most of the day on July 23rd, I was on a trip to Upper New England, and the high was 79 degrees. But I wound up running out of all my pants. My sweatpants, I wound up running out of them. Mainly because I only bought two, because I only thought I needed 2 days. So shorts and my sweatshirt, which was really my ugly fleece. That was all I had back then. Sweatshirts were not be coming in for me until the month of October, and I would slowly begin to build up my collection of them. So, what exactly happened? How did I get used to this combination that, by the way, I'm actually wearing it right now. Well, you know it's sweatshirt. You do know it's a long sleeve layer, which I will document in this video because it's kind of the same thing. This is actually a rather ugly sweater. But it's my band one, and I paid $15 for it. So, let's get some use out of it. So, yeah, last time I didn't completely escape the combo. But this year, it wound up, exemplifying. First of all, my issues with the cold were getting even worse. But second of all, shorts just became a thing that I had to wear a bit more often. Oh, ow, 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 ow. First of all, there were days where I went to places where I risked me getting too hot, and second of all, my parents would no longer let me stand out, mainly because they yelled at me after the day I wore sweatpants to the beach in September because it was 77 degrees. So, yeah, that was actually why we got our first sweatshirt in the first place. There were a lot of other days, and it just became a thing where if I needed to keep warm, but I might overheat, or I need shorts to blend in, I would need this combination. So, how exactly did it work out? Well, for me, it's always been for me, before my eye-opening experience of this, it was always just wear a t-shirt and pants if you have to. This happened on April 14th when the high temperature at 73 and was predicted to hit even more. But it wouldn't hit 73 again until May 12th. And from there, I was spared until May 15th. Actually, according to AccuWeather, both May 11th and 13th hit 76 degrees. But the weather app underestimated the high temperatures on both days. And at least on Wednesday, it was not humid at all. Actually, a lot of people wearing long sleeves that probably wound up enduring the 76 degree heat and regretted it. And I remember laying under a blanket most of the day. Oh, so that's why I had a crappy sleep night. Gotcha. So for me, that was always the question. I mean, there were days where I wore a t-shirt underneath a long sleeve layer. And I remember specifically on one of those days, it was only 50 degrees, but I was on one of my most intense hikes of my life. I didn't need to take my sweatshirt off, and there was a t-shirt underneath it. A combo that I stopped doing recently, well, not recently, in April, or maybe May, I think May, when my ugly fleece began to have to become used. So now I use that whenever I have that issue. Anyway, the issue, I then had to do it again on May 15th, 17th, and 18th. The May 18th, the low was 55 and the high was 72, but it was predicted to get hotter on that day, and it kind of came as a bit of a shock. May 17th at that point was the hottest day of the year, but it was still only 78 degrees. And honestly, that's quite late in the year to still fail to have a summer-like day. Like, honestly, we had our first 80-degree day. Latest since 1988, though our first 90-degree day would be the same day. So that would kind of even it out. Especially in contrast to what happened in 2021 when we had an 80-degree day in March. So if you really think about it, I mean, summer took a long time to come. It really did. But on May 21st, our first summer-like day was here, but I still got to wear a t-shirt and pants. Why? The high was 90 here, but when the high hit 85, that was when we went to the beach and did golfing. And when we came back, the temperature was again 85, so I managed to escape. It was only in the mid to low 70s at the beach, by the way. But May 23rd, I would not be so lucky. First of all, I was doing a car wash, so my parents would have made me wear shorts if it was anything above 65. And oh boy, was it above 65. It actually was in the 80s the whole time. High temperature of 86. Yeah, not exactly the most pleasant weather for washing cars in, you see. Not exactly the most pleasant weather for washing some cars. But I still need my sweatshirt because I get cold, and also the splash off the car could cool me off. But I pretty much stayed in it the whole day because my parents had AC blasting on in my house. This was truly my eye-opening experience. But what happened after that was that it got cold. Now, there were 2 75-degree days I still wore long sleeves on. One of which was predicted to get a bit cooler. And also, I didn't want anything to fall back to wearing a t-shirt and pants because I worried it might make me cold. That was 23rd. And then the 27th was just because I thought I had an interview, and that was the only college shirt I could find. Turns out that my interview that I thought was on May 27th would actually not be until June 9th. And that same shirt came out, which, it was hot, I'll say that. I'll just say it was hot. In the midweek, however, it began to, there was a substantial cool down. Now, remember the sweater I told you about today? Yeah, it turns out I had to wear that on May 24th to show spirit before a concert. Not that I was at the concert, of course. And there was a long sleeve shirt underneath it, which was my last, it wasn't really even a full day, and I would wear a double long sleeve with pants on a few more occasions after this, because guess what? There were some spring fallbacks, and a spring fallback typically means rain, and I needed my hood a lot. That actually is why I brought a sweatshirt on May 19th, even though the low that day was only 54 degrees. And the low this day was 58 in the morning, although it did cool off to 56 by midnight. High of only 68, I want to say. The next day, temperatures fell down to 50. So very close to getting into the 40s for the final time of the year, but was held off by one singular degree. High of 66. Next day was 51, 67. And then again at Friday. Friday and Monday's weather, the difference between them was the low temperature of only 1 degree, 61 on Monday, 62 on Friday. I do remember wearing a t-shirt and pants on Saturday, even though it was like rainy and even more dreary than Friday. That was 74, 63. And for a lot of people I know, that was their last day wearing pants of the entire year. Because the next day, while it cools to the 50s, highs would burst up into the mid-70s, beaming sunshine everywhere. Some people say it was our first day of perfect weather in New York City, as it was not too hot, not too cold, and with relatively low humidity. I was fine with it. I just wore a t-shirt and pants that day. Oh, but May 30th, luck runs out in World Parade. Now, of course, you wear a t-shirt and shorts under your uniform when you start marching when it's 67 degrees and finish marching when it's 80 degrees. But then I felt cold. But the high was in 83. And you don't walk around wearing pants in 83-degree weather. Regular long sleeve shirt that day, that's all I brought. Didn't want a hood to flash out, so I could just roll my sleeves at first, but then relaxed them when I got in the car. It was over my t-shirt first, then I took the t-shirt underneath it off. Had to take the whole thing off. May 31st, I had to walk to school in the morning because it was cold. It was the coldest part of the day. By that I mean it was only 73, but it wouldn't get cold again until 10 o'clock that night when a backdoor cold front sliced through the island. High of 93. So obviously I was in shorts that day. Sweatshirt for most of the day. I actually had to take it off when I went outside when the temperature was in the 90s. But when it fell back to the 80s, I put it back on. Because, I don't know, I guess I liked it that way. Oh, and June 1st is so much colder. 58 low, high of 66. That, yeah, obviously, people wore much heavier stuff that day. But then June 2nd gets warm, so I needed my t-shirt and pants again. Needed a fleece due to the rain that never happened. Low of 60, high of 78. Yada, yada, yada. Oh, June 5th. So June 4th and 5th, one day was a t-shirt and pants, the other day was a sweatshirt and shorts. Now, given the weather, especially on the 4th, you'd think I would just do a long sleeves. High of 73, low of 56. But I was beginning to ingrain myself in wearing long sleeves in warmer weather. Well, here's my secret. It was sunny. I was going to a park. It was beginning to be more like June. And I would have boiled to death in a long sleeve shirt with pants on. As it is normally I would wear long sleeves and that. Again, I can depend and I can be very fluid about this kind of stuff. Very fluid, indeed. So as a matter of fact, yes, I did just wear that. But the next day, high 76, low 54. This day we were going to a beach, even though we weren't actually going to the actual beach part of it. We were still going to a beach to walk on the boardwalk. So the sweatshirt and shorts had to come out. 4th day of the year. This is the low of 54. Thankfully, the coldest I was outside in it was 65. And I had to also build myself up to the chill because up to this point, I would only wear it on days where it was actually hot. But at camp, I'm going to have to wear this kind of thing in cooler temperatures. So, yeah. That is precisely what I did that day. Thankfully, the combo would not have to come back out until I had a long walk to my home for my English final in 82-degree heat as the high on June 14th. So then the combination has to come back out. Wound up getting so hot and my AC barely worked that I wound up actually needing to take my t-shirt underneath the sweatshirt off. Oh, in case you're wondering how I dodged it, rain threat on June 7th that never came through. Rain threat on June 13th that never came through. June 7th got to 85, June 13th got to 83, despite that June 13th felt a lot more summery. Hackathon t-shirt that I wanted to wear on June 13th, that too. Oh no, did I say June 7th? I meant June 8th. 85-degree day. June 9th, long season pants in 85 degrees. Sounds miserable, but a lot of people wearing a lot heavier than what they would normally wear in 85-degree weather because of the rain in the morning, even though, again, in the rain it was 67 degrees. Morning rain can be a lot trickier than afternoon rain in that one regard. June 15th, though, would not escape it due to the same threat, which actually wound up happening. Although the high temperature of 79 degrees or 78 degrees was during the middle of the regionals exam, and by the time I left, it did cool to the mid-70s. June 16th would be a warm front, cold front, but because the high was capped off in the low 70s, that would be long sleeves. But June 18th, I wore a sweatshirt, the intention was for me to take it off because the high temperature did hit 91 degrees. It wasn't supposed to get that high, but still, that is really warm. Went outside, put on my sweatshirt because it was cloudy and I thought it was cold. Turns out it was 90, feels like 91 when I went outside. And I had so much just headphone equipment on me that couldn't take it off. Just couldn't. There was so much equipment on me. However, from there, we were getting to a 6-day cold stretch where a lot of people actually fell back to their spring clothing, because what happened was that it got so warm due to a warm front, but then there would be a cold front coming in the next day. June 18th, part of the day, I needed a sweatshirt over my long sleeve shirt with sweatpants. I needed the same on June 12th when it was raining, and stuck in the 60s, though it would eventually warm to the lower 70s. This day I needed it because it was cloudy and windy, and a fall to the 60s into the 50s at a Mets game. The next day I didn't wind up needing a sweatshirt, but I still wore my very heavy long sleeve shirt. I know it was Father's Day. The low was 55 and it was very windy. And even though the high did get to about 74, 75, a lot of people were wearing heavier stuff than normal due to that frosty morning. Well, frosty for summer standards. Then it was t-shirt the next 2 days with sweatpants. Long sleeves with sweatpants the next day that was stuck in the 60s the whole day. The day after that, went to New Jersey, high mid-70s, so long sleeves. But then it would wind up being a sweatshirt and shorts day again. June 24th. So the last day of school, kind of should wear shorts to that. I felt like, here's the issue. So the high was 78 degrees and the low was 60, right? Well, I had to go to school in a low of 60. And I needed my third layer because a sweatshirt and shorts, if it's below 62, I can struggle. So, wound up having to bring my additional fleece on top of that I pretty much put away once I went to school because you don't want to be seen wearing 3 layers with shorts, especially not in the month of June. That is a big no-no. Big no-no. June 25th will just be a long sleeve shirt and shorts. We went to the beach. Kind of got to 86. The next day, graduation performance. So, dress clothes, which is long sleeves and pants, in spite of a high of 85. All the temperatures got crazy and said 88, but it was really only 85. Monday, as of right now, will be a final long sleeve and sweatpants day of the year. The low temperature was only 68 and the high was still 77, but it was pouring rain. Pouring rain. It was disgusting. I mean, honestly. It was really bad weather outside. So that's why I wore what I wore. But since then, it would come down to a decision. And so far, I've worn some kind of long sleeves with shorts on June 29th, 30th, July 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 8th. A t-shirt and shorts on July 6th because we were going to an amusement park to hit 95 degrees with a heat index of 106. And then a t-shirt and pants, obviously, on the rest of the days, so June 28th, July 2nd, July 4th. So, yeah. So, what are my tips for doing this? Well, every single time I did in May, I felt really imbalanced, but in June, I began to ingrain myself more into it. First of all, I still do want to balance in a t-shirt and pants when I can, because I don't want to lose that combination. And the shorts will be going away sometime in mid-September, except there's a hot monsoon practice or a day like October 2nd, 2019, where it winds up getting into the 90s in October. Now what happens is that first of all, you have to try to not think about the combination. and try to think of yourselves almost as two separate people on two separate halves. Don't do anything that would force them to come into contact with each other. Just don't really pay attention to it. And just slowly begin to build yourself into it. That's how I did it personally. Okay, goodbye.